Salute to all the Patreon members. I want to thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you guys can do me a favor, please check out the links in the description box below for the Patreon page and for the Facebook page. If you want to join other like-minded brothers in a group who are traveling, sharing their experiences and photos, join the Facebook page and a link in the description box below. And for some, I guess I would say, some real game behind traveling, my experiences, and if you want to just pick at my brain and hear me share a lot of the things that I've experienced and witnessed over the years that I don't want to share on YouTube, guys, check out the Patreon page, link in the description box below. We have a new member recently. I believe his name. I want to get his name. I believe his name is Michael. Oh man. I believe your name is Michael. I'm looking at my emails right now, and I have so many emails that I usually just delete a bunch of emails. And I think that notification for the new member in Patreon, I think I deleted it. So if I don't remember your name, forgive me, but I could have sworn your name was Michael. So welcome, Michael, to the Patreon page. I appreciate it. Guys, if you want to become a member on Patreon, hit the link in the description box below. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Splashwave Beats. I've either been living or traveling abroad for the last 16 years. I'm actually going out the country tonight. All right. And I'll be back next Thursday. So I'm always in and out the country. I've lived in Asia for 8 years. I lived in Canada. I've been off and on in Canada for the last 16 years. I just got back from Panama recently. My next destination was actually Dominican Republic. All right. I did an interesting interview with our homie Sam Combo, his experience in the Dominican Republic. I believe I did that interview a couple months ago. So you can check out that live stream for that interview on this channel right here. And Sam, he actually pointed out something interesting. He said that when he went to the DR, he was like, traffic is horrendous. He's like, the way people drive is horrendous over there. Then a different YouTuber, he was, talking about, the quality of the architects, the architecture over there. He was just like, yeah, I bought a house over here within 4 years. It's like this house, like the quality of it, the materials they use to build this house is garbage. Like he's like, this house is falling apart because I don't like the quality of this home. And I hold stuff like this near and dear to my heart, right? So first and foremost, I want to give my condolences to all the loved ones and families who lost a friend, a family member that night. So the article right here is death toll rises to 221 and roof collapse at a Dominican Republic nightclub. If you don't know what happened, I don't know what's the date. They're not giving. They didn't give a specific date in this article because they put out so many articles on this. But this past week or last week, there was a nightclub in the Dominican Republic. I forget the name of it. It was in Santo Domingo. And, there was some performers there. There were celebrities there that night. And all of a sudden, the roof just collapsed. And there was actual live footage on the inside because, when you have performances, when you have different celebrities come through, there were I think 3 different baseball players that were there. People they like to, cherish the moment, save the moment, so that they can go back and view what it is that they experienced, share it with other friends and family members. So a lot of people had their phones out and were recording the performances that night. Um, but it also showed uh, just people kind of confused at a certain moment in time. I think that they kind of, over the music, they could hear the actual roof like cracking. And people were like, hey, what should I do? What is that noise? Like, should I leave? Should I stay? And then all of a sudden, it collapsed and you just see rubble falling from the ceiling, and then it just goes dark after that. And so I want to say rest in peace to everybody that lost their lives. And like they're still cleaning up the debris from over there, and they're still finding bodies. So I remember at one point in time, it was like at 66. Now the death toll is at 221. And, this is sad. And, the video footage of the nightclub on the inside, it looked really, really nice. Woman cries outside the Jet Set nightclub Wednesday. So this happened this past Wednesday. What's today? Friday. So it was 2 days ago. I thought it was more than that. I didn't know it was 2 days ago. I thought it was like a week ago. But when was this article published? Yesterday. Okay, so it happened 2 days ago. So it was called the Jet Set nightclub. The reason why I'm making this video is because I have not experienced with. I've seen this from a distance. All right, especially when I was living in China and living in Thailand. Okay. Now I know, a lot of us, we like to go to developing nations, developing countries, right? Because the food is good and the cost of living is much cheaper. So the food is cheap. To have fun is cheap. The flights there aren't really that expensive, depending on where you go. Hotels are cheaper. And then, to have fun doesn't really cost that much when you go to some of these places. So we like to go to developing countries, spend our money, it boosts the economy there, it boosts the tourism in these countries. Hey, forgive me if you hear background noise. That's my wash machine. But we like going to these developing countries, all right, developing nations. There's a lot of fun going over to these places. The people, they're warm, in many different places. Like when I went to Panama, of course, Panama is more expensive than the Dominican Republic, cheaper than America. But, the people were warm towards me when I was there. All right. But something that I've always talked about for years, if you're an OG member on here, if you've been around since 2017, you've heard me talk about this over and over and over again on this channel. All right. I've talked about how some of these countries, right? And I'm trying to be sensitive because people lost their lives here. Salute to Ozzy. Yeah, it is very sad news. RIP to the victims. But this is how I want to help you guys, men or women that have passports that's traveling. You got to understand there's certain countries where like it almost seems as if people do things without a care, or there's not enough skill behind what it is that they're building, what it is that they're making, or what it is that they're presenting to the people. Some people, they just don't, they do things without a care. All right. When I was in Thailand, and mind you, I was living in Thailand. I was there off and on for 8 years. The amount of incidents like this that happened in Thailand was insane. All right. The amount of incidents like this that happen in Thailand. All right, so I remember one time, and you guys could look this up while I'm talking. I remember one time, this was when I was living in Thailand. I remember one time, because, uh, Chinese netizens are the number one tourists, uh, the number one in their contributions financially to the tourism industry in Thailand. And I remember one time they took this boat cruise. I think it was like almost 90 people, 90 Chinese netizens on this boat. And nobody inspected the boat before they went out, right? And then something happened with the engine or whatever. I don't remember, but it just tipped over. Or either it just started sinking or it tipped over. I think it just started sinking. I think the engine had something was up with the engine, or there was a hole in the boat. Something was flooding. I don't remember, but it just started sinking. It tipped over, and it might have been more than 90 people that was on that boat, but I do know over 80 people lost their lives on that boat. And people were inspecting the boat later on, talking about this could have been the malfunction that happened on the boat. But it's kind of like they discovered that, hey, like this could have been prevented by doing proper inspections. The people that was working with this boat, they weren't really doing their proper inspections, I believe, right? There's a lot of criminal negligence. There's a lot of negligence that go on in a lot of these different countries. I could go on and on. The bus drivers in Thailand, not locally within Bangkok, but the bus drivers that drive, these buses, kind of sort of like the Greyhound that could take you all over Thailand. They drive. I mean, they're crazy the way they drive, and these are double-decker buses. I remember one time. All right, so the north side of Bangkok is a little town called Rangsit, right? The way Thais pronounce it's called Langsit. And I used to live right across the street from Bangkok University. It's the diamond-shaped building in Rangsit, right? There was this bus driver. He was driving. He picked up some people from way up north in Thailand to bring them over to Bangkok. And Rangsit, it's like you're right there. You're pretty much almost in Bangkok there. It's like 20 more minutes, and they were at the bus stop. This guy was driving crazy. I think he might have fell asleep behind the wheel or something like that. Flipped the bus over, and several people lost their lives, including like 2 kids. And like that crash was right in front of my building. And I remember that was on the news. They charged him with criminal negligence, but he didn't do any jail time. I think they charged him 4,000 baht as a fine, which 4,000 baht is like $120. Either it was 4,000 baht or 6,000 baht. They didn't charge him no more than $200 for all the people that lost their lives on that bus that he flipped, right? And you were right there. You were almost at the station, and that happened. There was another time, and then I did 2 live streams recently this year where in Thailand, 2 buses caught on fire. One of them was filled with a bunch of students. And so a bunch of students and teachers lost their lives on this bus. And they said that, hey, these tanks, these fuel tanks in the back, they were out of date. There was way too many that the bus was holding. And, they didn't do their proper inspections. So criminal negligence once again. And that happened in both incidents, right? I think the first bus, a bunch of students and teachers lost their lives because it was a double-decker bus. And then the second incident, I think people had some injuries, but I don't think anybody lost their lives on the second the second incident. because people were kind of on edge because those two bus fires happened within the same week. So the one where people got injured, but they didn't lose their lives, that happened after the students and teachers lost their lives. So people were just kind of like saddened and upset about that. So everybody was kind of on edge. And when that happened again, it happened within the same week. So people quickly got off that bus. All right. But once again, criminal negligence. There was another incident where this Canadian guy, he was overweight and he went ziplining in Thailand. Way too heavy. You know, the harness says that you can't be over 250 pounds to be in that harness. Like the max weight was 250 pounds. I think he was like 400 or 500 pounds. They put him in the harness anyway. The harness was actually out of date. They were supposed to get a new harness. So they put him in an old, expired, out of date harness, and he weighed too much. So the zip line popped and he fell to his death. Right? Criminal negligence. Once again. So these incidents, they happen quite often. I remember there was a nightclub in Thailand. A bunch of people lost their lives. And it wasn't a roof collapse. It was a fire. So I don't know what was going on with the electricity and the roof caught on fire. But, you know, since there's a whole bunch of lights up top on the roof, that electric fire, it's spread quickly. And in this club, there was only one entrance and one exit, like double doors. And everybody's trying to run out of these double doors and they couldn't get out. Right. So who designed this building? Like most buildings besides an apartment have multiple exits. And to be quite honest, an apartment has multiple exits. Okay. You got a back door, you got a front door. Now the back door, if you're on the second or third level, right, especially if you're above the second level, it could be difficult to jump off. But if there's a fire, you can't run out the front door. And the fire department's there. They can rescue you from your balcony. If you're on the first floor, you could just run through the back door and get out and escape. So you have two entrances and exits, right? But man, no building of that size should just have one entrance and one exit. I'm like, y'all didn't even have a back door, you know, that anybody could go out of. No, people were just trapped. So actually, it was more than just several, but a lot of people lost their lives in that fire in Thailand at that nightclub. Y'all look that up, right? But this right here, you see this, and it's like it reminds you of certain things you've seen in other countries, right? Because the way the homie Sam Combo was talking about his experience in Punta Cana, DR, mind you, he had a very good time, but he's just like, yeah, people, they just kind of drive crazy out here. And that's how it is in Thailand. It's like those incidents that I just shared with you, you know, add that on top of like people driving the wrong way all the time in, you know, Thailand, driving the opposite direction on the road in Thailand, people riding on the sidewalk, people riding the opposite direction on the sidewalk. People have lost their lives getting hit by other motorbike drivers while walking on the sidewalk in Thailand. Like you have to really keep your head on a swivel at all times, you know? And so I've never been to the DR, but I can only imagine, you know, people like, even if I went, I might get the same feeling that I did in Thailand. It's just carelessness everywhere you go, and people losing their lives. It's sad, right? So now, do I think this have? It wasn't storming that night, right? I don't know how long this building. I don't know when this building was built. But you don't just hear about roofs collapsing unless it's like an earthquake or it's a really bad storm going outside. It wasn't storming. It wasn't an earthquake, right? You hear about buildings collapsing in like Taiwan, like the eastern border of Taiwan, when there's like a huge earthquake every couple of months over there. That's what you know. You hear that, right? But the roof just collapsed, and obviously, this building was built poorly. Um, they rescued 189 survivors. Hopes of finding more victims alive are dwindling. Hundreds of heartbroken families have been showing up to the side of the tragedy, hoping to find their missing loved ones since Tuesday, when the roof of the building of the bustling just Jet Set nightclub collapsed during a performance by the renowned merengue singer Ruby Perez, and he unfortunately lost his life. Rest in peace to him. A funeral for Perez was underway Thursday at the Eduardo Brito National Theater in San Domingo. His daughter and bandmate Zelinka Perez told Telemundo the family is devastated. Was she there that night? So if she was there that night, she probably was maybe towards the back of the stage. Because actually footage, it cuts off before the debris hits him, but there's footage actually showing him on stage like moments before he passed. We didn't expect it. That's why it hurts more, she said in Spanish. My dad was my support, my confidant, my friend. Zelinka Perez was on stage with her father when the nightclub came crashing down and witnessed when the beam fell and crushed him. She said, everything fell on him and I didn't see him again. Everything happened so fast. There was a lot of debris. So, with more than 300 firefighters scoring the rubble and giant cranes removing pieces of the concrete roof. Okay, if you want to read this article, it's right here. It's on NBC News. I mean, there's dozens of articles on this subject matter right here. But the death toll is at 221, and it's probably going to increase. All right, so the advice I want to give you guys when you travel abroad is when you're traveling, right, and you're in a developing nation, and they might have a history of, I know I said the word criminal negligence, but that was to give an example of other incidents that happened in Thailand. But when you go to certain countries and you're hearing about structures collapsing, like even in China, like in China that happens all the time. Like elevators, they're built poorly because of the materials they use. Structures collapsing. When you go to certain places and they have a history of stuff like this going on, you got to keep your head at a swivel. When people in traffic are driving crazily on the road, or some of the incidents that I gave you earlier about people not doing inspections on buses and zip lines collapsing and boats tipping over and buses, bus drivers driving crazy. Like when I was in Thailand, driving up a hill, going over a hill, you would have bus drivers weaving in and out because it's a one lane interstate, weaving in and out of traffic, going over a hill, and they can't see what's on the other side. I'm like, this is insane, right? Driving the bus like it's Mario Kart, right? So when you go to certain countries and they might have a history of that, keep your head on a swivel. And if you feel uncomfortable, if you sense anything that's not right, get out of there, right? See, I would always do that. Because most of the time, like, I hang, I was either hanging out with myself, or I was, if I was hanging out with somebody, it was with women, whether it be my girl or I'm on a date with somebody, I was always with women in Thailand, right? Dudes, it's like when you amongst other males and y'all are hanging out and you sense something, a lot of times guys might talk you out of it, like, oh man, you tripping. Look at him. He's tweaking. Here, have a drink, relax. He's tweaking, right? Something wrong with him. Like, look, he tripping. But, when you're by yourself and you sense something, you just get up out of there. There's nobody you have to convince to leave with. It's like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm not, don't convince me to stay. I'm not trying to convince you to leave. There's nobody to do that with. You just leave. And with women, it's like if you sense danger, they're like, oh, okay, take me with you. If you sense danger, don't leave me here. Take me with you. Right? Women will just automatically come with you because they'll trust your instincts. But with men, it's kind of like, sometimes, and then with other women with other women, they'll convince them to stay behind and, oh, you're thinking too much, right? So when you sense something or just something doesn't feel right, just get up out of there, right? So that's the best advice I could give, honestly. Nick Travel says stop going to the DR. I'm pretty sure Nick has been to the DR, so I would like to hear his take on why people should stop going to the DR. This won't stop me, but I don't think I want to go to Santo Domingo anymore. I heard of a Major League Baseball pitcher who was unalived in the rooftop collapse when the Dodgers played the Nationals. That was my first time hearing about the roof collapse in the DR then. Wow. Yeah, there were several baseball players there that night. DR is one of the highest rates of deaths from car accidents, lots of drunk driving. So Thailand also. It's so bad in Thailand that I remember they would stop the sale of alcohol nationally during certain hours. Like, so you could only buy alcohol like from, I think it was like 9 a.m. to like maybe 1 p.m. And then after that, they just banned the sale of alcohol. They was doing that for a minute. And then during Songkran, which is like their New Year's, they would ban the sale of alcohol during the whole time of Songkran because the death toll is so high during that week. All right. So, and the fact that this roof collapse happened in Santo Domingo with wealthy people inside makes me scared to travel to developing countries. Yeah. Ozzy brings up a good point. This was like a wealthy, upscale establishment that this happened at. And that's where most people go to. So, hey man, when we go to most places, we don't go to, hole in the wall spots. We like to go to rooftop bars and nightclubs like this. So yeah, that's crazy. Things like this make me only want to go to developed countries like Canada, Australia, Europe, etc. There was a fire at the Jet Set Club a couple years ago, so some people are saying that played a part. Wow. So it might have been an electrical fire like the one I was talking to you guys about in Thailand that happened a few years ago. And that probably weakened the roof. I didn't know about that. And people was like, hey, we got to make money. See, the right thing to do is shut down the club and redo the roof. But they're thinking about cost, overhead, and, it's losing business, losing interest in the people. The momentum slows down when you shut down the club, right? So, yeah, that's sad. That is very, very sad. Okay. It's very sad. So, once again, rest in peace to everybody that lost their lives in this roof collapsing. I will say this, me personally, I wouldn't say stop going to the Dominican Republic, but just keep your head on a swivel. Um, and the choice is yours at the end of the day. You know, I'm not telling you where to go and where not to go, right? But keep your head on the swivel. Uh, Listen to your gut instincts. Um, you know, don't drink too much. And man, all I can say is be careful, rest in peace. And so, you know, for me to say don't go someplace when I was living in a country similar to, what we're talking about with a lot of this going on in Thailand, I stayed there for 8 years, so who am I to tell somebody not to go somewhere? All right. So, anyways, you guys take care. I'm over and I'm out. Stick around because I'm going to do another live stream. All right. I'm going to do another live stream. I'm going to talk about dating in Taiwan. Right. And I'm going to give you I know I did a live stream talking about it before, but I want to talk about either dating in Taiwan or my pet peeves about the women in Panama. Right. Which one should I do? Should I talk about my pet peeves about the women in Panama or dating in Taiwan? I remember I did a stream talking about the Taiwan subject before, but I want to do another one and tell you guys the right way to experience Asia. Right? A lot of people, they go to Thailand, they want to go to Japan, they'll go to Korea. And I feel different. I think guys should go to Taiwan, but know what to expect when it comes to dating when you go to Taiwan. So what should I talk about? And the other, if I'm interested in both, well, you got to pick one. You can only pick one because the other topic I'll talk about once I'm out the country. The other topic I'll talk about it on Monday, right? But you only can pick one for now because and I'll fire up the live stream in about an hour, within the hour and a half. Taiwan, it's a good subject to talk about. Man Club says Taiwan, so yeah, we should do Taiwan. Photo. What was this? I gotta. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna make a nice thumbnail for this. So we'll talk about Taiwan, right? We'll talk about Taiwan, but so stay close to your phones, stay close to your computers, your laptops, your iPads, because I'm gonna go live within 30 minutes to an hour. All right. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Take care.